Hello, everybody, and welcome into another CLNS Media Patriots Roundtable Super Bowl week. The storylines are starting to fly around. We are here to cover it all. I am joined by Mike Alonji and Mike Petralia for our Monday Roundtable edition. Again, we'll be having these videos, this audio come out pretty much all week as we get you ready for the big game in Minnesota, Super Bowl 52. Gentlemen, how are you? Good morning.
Great to be here, Alex and Mike. How are you guys?
Very excited to start up this new week, man. It's going to be a big one.
Starts off with Monday night media Monday night at the Super Bowl. So I'm sure there'll be storylines galore coming out of there, including the best dressed bride in attendance to propose to a particular player. We'll see.
Well, one storyline we already know from Monday night. We think we know is that Rob Gronkowski will not attend. The reports were this morning that he is still going through concussion protocol, so the Patriots will hold him out of Super Bowl opening night. Now, that is subject to change. It sounds like, putting the dots together from what's being said on Twitter, he will be evaluated again later today, so still a possibility. But, guys, are you a little concerned that, not necessarily that he's not going, obviously he's not ready, but maybe that is the guy we know recovers slowly from injuries, that he's still in that protocol?
I'm not super concerned, and I won't be, guys, until Wednesday or Thursday. If he's not back on the field by then, and he hasn't been cleared fully for protocol, then I'd be a little concerned about him playing in the Super Bowl. But the fact that he was on the field on Saturday and Sunday is an indication that he has cleared a certain level of the protocol, maybe clearly not fully cleared the protocol, but the fact that he has been back on the field certainly I think is an encouraging sign, because if it were real serious and he were really slow to recover, I don't think he'd even be permitted on the field, nor do I think he would have been permitted in and around the building last week.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Trax. I mean, I think it's one of those things where Patriots probably want to treat him with kid gloves. I mean, Rob Gronkowski did not play in the Super Bowl last year. And, it's one of those things where why would you put him back out on the field if he's not, obviously if he's not cleared, he's not allowed out there. But I think it's one of those things where the Patriots might not want him to answer questions about his concussion, about, how he's feeling and things like that, because there could be certain tells or whatever. It's just one of those things, I think, where they just want to keep him as far away from the spotlight as possible until they know whether or not he's absolutely going to play.
Okay, there's something else to really keep in mind here. Having been to many of these Monday night or, Super Bowl media day spectacles, that's what they are. And there's literally bright lights and flashing lights everywhere. And for a guy coming off a significant concussion that knocked him out of the second half of the AFC Championship game, that's something to consider as well. Whereas maybe in a more controlled environment, either at the podium or perhaps at one of those tables nestled in a conference room or a staging area inside the Mall of America in Bloomington, that might be a little more controlled environment. So that's something to consider as well.
It's gone a little under the radar, but this weekend it was announced that Barry Church, the one who hit Rob Gronkowski, caused the concussion, got fined. It was just over $24,000. That was it. Obviously, no games left to suspend him for. He was going to be able to play the Pro Bowl. Do you guys feel like that was the right punishment?
Yes, I do. I think it was fitting. It sent the message that, even though clearly I think by watching it, it was not intentional. He was not out to try and knock Gronkowski out of the game. He was trying to knock the ball away from Gronk and separate the ball from Gronkowski. But the message is going to be clear from the National Football League and their executive offices and their enforcement offices that we cannot allow any violent hits to the head. And that's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, Barry Church did exactly what he was supposed to do. He went out, he tried to throw his shoulder directly into Rob Gronkowski's upper chest and tried to just blast the football out of his arms. But what just happened to happen is, Gronk lowered his head and they made head-to-head contact. Once you see that helmet-on-helmet contact, especially when it was helmet-on-face mask like it was with this Gronkowski hit,
right?
I mean, the NFL, the officials are going to call that every time. They're drilled on that stuff. They say you have to call the helmet-on-helmet stuff. We even saw, again, over the weekend, the NFL came out with statistics that said concussions were up this year. That's something that they obviously don't want to see. So, anytime that you have the helmet-on-helmet hit, it's going to be a fine, $24,000. I agree. It's probably pretty safe to say that's the fair fine to give.
And we want to thank our sponsors for today's Super Bowl Roundtable. Today's segment is powered by DraftKings. Go to DraftKings.com and use the promo code CLNS for free match play. It's also brought to you by Simple Contacts, where you can go to be blown away by the quality and ease of use. Go to simplecontacts.com/TRAGS, that's TRAGS, and use promo code TRAGS for $30 off your first order of contact lenses. And RX Bar. RX Bar is a whole food protein bar. What does that mean? Our bars are made with 100% whole ingredients. Support our programming by going to rxbar.com/CLNS and use the promo code CLNS, where listeners receive 25% off their first purchase. So we continue on this Patriots roundtable, getting ready for the Super Bowl. And last game against Jacksonville, not a huge game for the running backs, kind of uncharacteristic. Obviously, the Jacksonville defense is another story, especially the way they contained running backs, both the running game and in the passing game. But Trags, you were saying off the air, I think this week's going to be a little different.
I think this would be a very good time to get James White involved. We haven't heard a lot from him. Obviously, he was injured late in the season, had that ankle injury in Pittsburgh. But, we would assume that James White has recovered pretty close to 100%, or about as much as he's going to. And they would love to have James White in the flat, throwing outlet passes or catching outlet passes from Tom Brady to maybe counter some of that Philadelphia pass rush. And the other thing to remember with James White, he is great in up-tempo offense. And as much as they love to use Dion Lewis when, you're running from the I or running from the 21 package that the Patriots like to use, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, James White against an up-tempo defense like Philadelphia, I think could have a huge game. And I would look to see James White as having a big factor in this game, not only catching the ball, but on runs here and there.
So in theory, I would like to agree with this. As you guys both know, I said a few weeks ago that at the beginning of the playoffs that Dion Lewis would be the reason that the Patriots win the Super Bowl this year. So I would like a running back to do pretty well this week for sure, but I would prefer it to be Dion Lewis just so I could have bragging rights. But yeah, no, I agree. I think
nothing wrong with that.
If there's any guy though that would be big to come up in this Super Bowl game, it'd be James White, right? I mean, I know they gave Danny Amendola that playoff nickname. But if anyone's nickname is playoff, it's probably James White. And more specifically, if anyone's nickname is Super Bowl, it is probably James White. So I think that he definitely has a big possibility to have a big game. He's so versatile. You can use him in the pass game. You can use him in the run game. I really liked what I saw from him earlier in the year as they were using him more in the running game. Obviously, that was before Dion Lewis kind of started to blow up towards the second half of the season.
Right.
But yeah, I think James White can have a really big week. I think, as always, he's one of those guys that they can feature because he can move into the slot. He can move into the backfield. You can even split him out wide. You can do so many different things with him. I think he's probably a guy that you can really look to have a big week.
So I'll help Billy out here, Mike. When you said, and I remember when he says on the pregame show that Dion Lewis would win them a Super Bowl, you look at some of the performance he had in big games down the stretch, the one run he had last week against Jacksonville, the game he had against Tennessee, the game he had against Pittsburgh. I mean, if he doesn't have those games, they're probably not here. So he is really going to win them the Super Bowl if they win it, because you're going to look back on some of his performances throughout the year and say, wow, those were absolutely crucial. They needed those. But yeah, Trags, I think you're right. When it gets to the Super Bowl, Belichick's always kind of had those guys, and it's weird that we can spot Super Bowl tendencies. Like, it's absurd just to think about how much they've been there that we can do that. But he always has those guys, right, that he goes to in that game maybe more than he would other times. And James White exemplifies that. I think he's going to lead the team in catches. I really do. I think based on the way the Eagles defense plays and based on what their strategy has been in past Super Bowls, I would not be shocked if it's another double-digit catch game for James White. And off the top of my head, I don't believe anybody has ever had multiple double-digit catch games in the Super Bowl. Off the top of my head, I might be wrong.
I can't imagine they would.
Right. I mean, it's rare to see one receiver break out in a Super Bowl, because once, that receiver starts getting hot in the game, the coaching staffs make immediate adjustments and take away that weapon. And usually in Super Bowls, the passing game, the receivers, the attack is usually spread around. But taking a look at James White's numbers, he's only had 19 touches, guys, total in the running game and the passing game in the 2 playoff games so far. He's got 7 carries for just 15 yards running, and he's got 12 targets, actually 7 catches. So that's only 14 touches. I misspoke. 14 touches in the 2 playoff games, 7 in each game. So I would expect James White to really pick up that level and pick up that pace. Again, look to see Sweet Feet getting more involved in maybe a hurry-up offense.
That could be one of those things where they're just kind of holding him out and not giving him, not subjecting him to a lot of punishment because they know that he's one of those guys that they can absolutely use in a game like this.
Absolutely.
So the most receptions in a game is actually it's 11, so nobody's done it more than once. Patriots have a couple of them, Deion Branch and James White. We want to thank the sponsors of today's roundtable. Today's segment is sponsored by DraftKings. Go to DraftKings.com and use the promo code CLNS for free match play. Today's segment is also powered by Simple Contacts, where you will be blown away by the quality and ease of use. Go to simplecontacts.com/TRAGS, that's TRAGS, and use promo code TRAGS for $30 off your first order of contact lenses. And RX Bar. RX Bar is a whole food protein bar. What does that mean? Our bars are made with 100% whole ingredients. Support our programming by going to rxbar.com/CLNS and use the promo code CLNS, where listeners receive 25% off of their first purchase. One more topic I want to touch on the CLNS Patriots Roundtable. It broke Monday morning. Trags, will start with you because I know this is a little close to home to you. The Tom vs. Time documentary, which, by the way, I think has been fantastic, and we'll talk about that later in the week. Obviously, we've gotten a look at Tom Brady's personal life, his home life, and his kids. And Alex Reimer, who is on WEEI 93.7 850 in Boston, had some comments about Tom Brady's daughter. Brady makes a weekly appearance on EEI on Mondays. He went on Monday morning, cut his interview short, and said he's rethinking coming on the station in the future. The EI interviews have kind of been a staple in the market. He's been doing it for over 10 years. There are other sports stations. There are other places he could go. But, Monday of Super Bowl week, for this to come across as a headline, it just kind of looks ugly for not everybody involved, not Tom Brady, but, for the parties involved.
Well, it's an unneeded spectacle. And obviously, as you said, this hits home to me very closely because I worked at WEEI for over 20 years, both online and as a field reporter for the station. And the irony of this, guys, is the two parties, the Patriots and WEEI and Entercom, just signed within the last week a multi-year extension to have Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, for as long as they're both with the franchise, of course, on Patriots Monday and Patriots Friday, which again has been a staple of their programming. It's been must-listen to programming, and they've gotten some great tidbits out of it. They've done a great job with it. But this, to me, it steps over the line. The Patriots knew it. Tom Brady knew it. And I'm sure people at inside WEEI know it as well. And for Tom Brady to call him out on the air is totally understandable. I mean, look, I've been around, covering sports long enough to know players don't mind. They don't like it all the time, but they don't mind when you criticize their play on the field or something they did off the field that was reckless. Okay. And players, accept that as part of the deal. You do something stupid, people are going to criticize you and have the right to criticize you. You criticize their family, that's a whole different ballgame. That's a whole level of you don't do that. And, it's pure and simple here. This, to me, there's no, gray area, if you will, for WEEI to go down. They have to, I'm pretty sure, going to have to take some type of disciplinary action in this case because Alex Reimer went over the line, clearly, and for no reason used a derogatory term towards Vivian Brady, Tom's daughter, with Giselle. You don't do that, and I think there will be a price to pay. We'll see how it plays out, though.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things where, it was it's kind of one of those what were you thinking type moments. Alex Reimer, I understand he's one of those guys. He's on the radio. He is a bit of a controversial figure. He likes to get up there and say some things where, you you kind of question what he's thinking and stuff like that. He's a little bit of a shock jock type mentality there, and hey, it works for him most of the time. But this is one of those things where, I mean, there was really no need to come out and say what he said about Vivian Brady. I mean, because she was yelling at the beginning of the documentary because she's excited about her soccer game. I mean, come on, the girl is 5 years old? I mean, really,
it was just so unnecessary, like you said, Mike. And there's going to be a price to be paid here. I can tell you that. I would be almost certain that there's going to be some type of price to be paid because Tom is not happy.
And just talk about a guy. Talk about a guy that. Yeah, exactly. Talk about a guy who you don't want to make angry. I mean, the Tom Brady interview on Monday morning. I know people who wake up early just to listen to the Tom Brady interview of the morning. Right. I mean, and same. I mean, obviously, same thing with the Bill Belichick interview on Wednesday afternoons and things like that. But yeah, this Patriots Monday, Patriots Friday thing has been a huge draw for WEEI for years now. And like Trag said, to just sign a multi-year extension the other day, I think it was like Thursday or something, and then on Friday night, Saturday night to have Reimer come out and say this, that was just a bad look on everybody's part.
And then, I mean, on top of that, just to make it worse for EEI, I'm sure they're going to have to give some money back to sponsors now that the interview got cut short. The initial, I saw a report this morning. I didn't see anybody follow up on it that Reimer was sent home from Minnesota. He literally was turned around at the airport, sent back to Boston. They'll have people fill in for him on the coverage this week. I'm not, I don't know if that's necessarily exactly the facts, but a couple people were tweeting that. So, but it does seem like some sort of punishment is on the way. And in an era where shock jockery is so high in demand, you kind of see this and makes you pause for a second, think about what exactly it is you want to hear on the radio, what you're listening to. Alex Reimer is my age. I think he's a year older than me. And it's just wild to me that, I know myself, I love doing CLNS, but I know myself and other people I know would kill to have that kind of exposure beyond that station in that market. And to be in that place at his age and to find nothing better to talk about than insulting some guy's daughter, it's just irresponsible.
Well, it's like giving the keys of a Maserati to a 18-year-old, right? I mean, what bad could possibly happen when you do that? And that's kind of this situation. If you ask me, you're talking about a young reporter who's been around. I mean, it's not like he's inexperienced. He's certainly experienced, but when you put him in an element that he's clearly overmatched, and you usually get something like this. You usually get a guy trying to say something to make headlines, and Tom Brady just called him out on it. Period.
I'm sure he wasn't expecting that either. I'm sure he was not anticipating a Tom Brady himself to call him out and say something like this. I think
good for Tom. I mean, I cannot tell you how much I respect Tom Brady for calling him out, because if somebody attacks my family out of the blue like that, it's not going to end well.
Oh, absolutely.
We know Tom Brady's whole shtick of how locked in he is in Super Bowl week, no distraction. So obviously it's his family. We know it means a lot. But the timing of it all, for him to cut this interview short, and now I'm sure he knows he's going to get asked about this at Super Bowl week. He's going to have to deal with this now, at least early in the week, if not all week. And he knew what he was getting into. So all the respect to him. I think he handled it perfectly. And hopefully for his sake, and for Vivian's sake too, it goes away quickly, because she does not deserve to be in the spotlight.
By the way, guys, get used to this expression. We heard it on Saturday when he was asked, it was kind of a softball question about his Tom versus Time documentary on Facebook. He said, "No distractions. I like that. Let's stick to football." So that's what his answer is going to be all week long, starting tonight in Super Bowl media Monday night. It's going to happen throughout the week. The next 2 or 3 times he talks before the game, let's stick to football. And that's going to be his stock answer, and can't blame him.
And we will be covering Tom Brady sticking to football all week on the CLNS Patriots Roundtables. This roundtable was brought to you by DraftKings. Go to DraftKings.com and use the promo code CLNS for free match play. It's also brought to you by Simple Contacts, where you will be blown away by the quality and ease of use. Go to simplecontacts.com/TRAGS, that's TRAGS, and use the promo code TRAGS for $30 off your first order of contact lenses. And it's brought to you by RX Bar. RX Bar is a whole food protein bar. What does that mean? Their bars are made with 100% whole ingredients. Support our programming by going to rxbar.com/CLNS and use the promo code CLNS, where listeners will receive 25% off your first purchase. Well, guys, it's been a fun one. Obviously, a lot more storylines to get to. We will get to those later in the week. So until then, for Mike Alonji and Mike Petralia, my name's Alex Barth. Thanks for watching and listening to, regardless of your choice, the CLNS Patriots Roundtable. For more coverage, visit clnsmedia.com and follow us on Twitter at PatriotsCLNS. We'll talk to you next time.